to come here, become a radiologist, and become basically one of the most renowned names in radiology AI. As a matter of fact, Hopper, his latest company, by the way, he is a serial entrepreneur, has had two exits that I know of, maybe more, and is probably doing one of the most exciting works in radiology AI. As usual, we're going to go ahead and start with some of the updates of the week. Again, I was on vacation and working hard, so some of the updates are missing, which I will cover next week. One of the biggest update, and by the way, this is amazing. You guys can actually give me an input on that. Artificial intelligence begins prescribing medications in Utah. Can you believe that? Ed, insane. By the way, the word prescribing is not good, not right. Actually, if you really look at the platform, they're actually refilling it. But this is insane. And by the way, from a regulatory perspective, I don't know how this skip FD. I don't know how this even works. Anyways,
Well,
so
this
in
is
short,
Janae, this is exactly what we've been talking about, with I call it concierge AI. But you don't need. Why do we have the old processes that we do that take so long and take so much administrative burden? It's like it can all be automated through AI. So I love this. This is the future, and we're watching it unfold.
okay, I'm gonna give a point to our CIO, CDO of the week, and then Dr. Khan Siddiqui. I know AI is gonna be radiology. You're gonna talk about it, but reference this when you're talking about your vision of radiology AI and how you think it's gonna evolve in the future. This is the actual paper that is actually done, and then it is insane if you look at the actual numbers. And it was kind of odd that 500 patients were evaluated with AI doctor and human and compared. Primary diagnosis agreement was 81%. Treatment plan consistency was 99%. AI was superior by 36%. And then human was superior by only 9.3%. Again, it is kind of really odd. This is Manus. I don't know if you guys do that. I think Harvey actually uses GenSpark now. I'm moved over to GenSpark, but Manus was a pretty good one. It was bought up by Meta for $2 billion. It's insane, like how things are moving in terms of AI is concerned. This is an interesting article from A16Z. Venture capital will eat private equity. I'm going to link it into the show notes. I'm not going to go into a little bit of depth about it, but this is again how the work, it's changing in terms of how funding is being done for startups. This is truly one of the most insane articles, and again, I'm going to go into a little more detail next time that how chest X-ray can predict 120 diseases, 120. I actually forgot to include one of about ISA for sleep study that can predict 100 diagnoses as well through AI. I love this company AI too, so I always mention them. They always did. Hey Harvey, sorry, Harvey is on. Are you at Las Vegas in CES?
Yeah, I'm at CES. I'm really excited. This is huge. It's
You're
it's
you're gonna
yes.
talk about human robots in a minute, and we're gonna figure this out together. That how you're gonna change the space industry and everything. Dr. Siddiqui, Dr. Castro Harvey is a good friend of mine, and he is actually now the chief advisor for Phantom Space, and he's putting uh, AI data centers in space with them, which is going to go with Healthcare Works. So when you're in Dallas, we're gonna basically meet again. I think you met him when you were at EPNA conference as well. Um, so this is actually another study which is again tells you. So this is the one that I was talking to you about. Okay, let's get your prescriptions refilled, and this is on refilled, and then you can click, are you currently in Utah? Insane. I think this is going to change the way we're going to go ahead and have this information moving forward. Again, cybersecurity is always a big concern. 16 terabyte of information was lost. Featured browser exploit intercepting millions of user AI chats. Again, be careful which things you're installing. Anthropic article, how to harness long running agents. And by the way, this is important for us because we are now moving completely over to agentic coding, which we did. But now we're letting the agent run for days, not just 1 day or 2 day. And they actually go ahead and explain how you can use agentic AI over time in an effective manner as well. We are not using cloud code. We are actually using different things. But at the end of the day, this is an important article for everyone to read in terms of understanding. AI agents are starting to eat SaaS. This is again, Satya Nadella said it very perfectly. The 2000s was that every software is going to eat the world, and now AI is going to eat the software. And it's insane how fast the software developer is going on. Olema 3, the open source reference that I was talking about, is a very good architecture. And again, I love this company because they not only share the open source model, but they open source everything, the weights, the strategy and everything. So A2AI and this one is actually one thing that you want to look at. And again, it's a US company as well. We are looking at a lot of DeepSeek, and everyone is coming from China. We don't know what is embedded. I always love US companies developing it. And I'm grateful that somebody is actually now refocusing and creating open source available. Uh, State of Consumer AI 2025. This is an again very important read that you should look at if you're actually trying to understand how open Google and other players are developing AI for the masses in terms of consumer market. And again, of course, we are using this. And this is the last one. The role of doctors is changing forever. Important read from the New Yorker. Again, last thing that I'm really not happy about is that Grok and NVIDIA entered to a non-exclusive inference technology licensing. And just to remind you, Grok develops what we call LPUs. NVIDIA develops GPUs. LPUs are essentially fast inference chips. As a matter of fact, we use Grok a lot. Another company that does similar stuff is called Cerebras. They bring a large wafer onto the system. So therefore, you can do inference at a speed and latency that you have not heard before. But now, I mean, it looks like a non-exclusive inference technology licensing agreement, but it seems like, they, as you know, avoiding, these technology monopolies, people are not buying it. These large companies, they are essentially doing everything we don't. So going back to Dr. Siddiqui, sir, do you mind introducing yourself and more importantly, introducing what you're up to with Hopper?
Sure, absolutely. It's great to be here and great to do this again with you. And it's been amazing seeing your journey and things you've been able to do and really your focus. I still remember the first time we talked about it a couple of years ago. So as you mentioned, I'm a radiologist. I was faculty at University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins. Got into machine learning, computer vision, AI in 2004 timeframe. So before people even talking about this stuff. And based on my work in academia, I got recruited by Microsoft to start their machine learning group. So all the work coming out of Microsoft, Myra and Management Insight, all this that group I started in 2008. Worked on a bunch of different things in healthcare as well as Xbox Connect and then eventually Microsoft Azure. And left to start a bunch of different companies. Went to do hypertension management and a company called Higgy, had a successful exit of that, and then decided to build a portable MR scanner, a company called Hyperfine, took that company public on NASDAQ, and have been investing in former employees and colleagues, launching different entities, and as you said, multiple different exits. From that, Hopper idea started at Microsoft when in 2012 when we were kicking off our ResNet project. I'm sure you know the CNN ResNet that was built by Microsoft. That was we started that when I was there. I didn't stay there till when it was finished, but in 2012. So the idea really was that the way I was thinking about is that as clinicians, when patient comes in, they don't come with a diagnosis. They don't come and I have pneumonia, find me pneumonia, or I have lung cancer, find me lung cancer. Like I have hemoptysis. Now you need to go figure out what is causing hemoptysis, right? So the thought process was that these model needs to do a lot of different things. And how do we build a platform to accelerate AI development? Can we do it in a way that it doesn't take months and years to build a model? Can you do it in a day? That was kind of the philosophy in 2012. Microsoft didn't go in that direction at that time. And then in 2017, 2018, my former team members who had all moved on to other places, right? Some went to Meta, some went to Meta's AI group, some went to DeepMind AI group, some went to AWS, some went to GCP, autonomous vehicles. So they're all kind of disrupted and they went away. And then all start sending me attention is all you need paper. Like, hey, look at this transformer architecture. That's probably a better way to do the platform that we talked about in 2012. So I got all of them in an Airbnb in Seattle for 3 days to flush out, and Hopper kind of came out of that discussion in 2019. So the philosophy was, can we build a platform to really accelerate AI development? And can we eventually go to a codeless or low code development process? And as you know, the first thing you have to do is figure out how to get data and get data that can be generalizable across the place. The other ingredient you really need, even in CNN days, nobody built CNN from scratch, right? They always used some underlying, well, now we call foundation models like UNet, ResNet, AlexNet, and then they would, retrain the weights on it for their model. So the idea was like, what are those pre-trained models that we can provide as part of that aspect of it, and all the tooling that goes on top of it. My philosophy always was that AI needs to be in the workflows and in the tools people are already using, and not something distracting the clinician from their workflow, right? As clinicians, we're already looking at three, four different, especially radiologists, three, four different applications to get a job done. Like, how do we enable them? And that was kind of a insane idea in 2019. I mean, this is before ChatGPT and any of this stuff came out, right? We're thinking the same way. And then how do we provide easy tools to fine tune? So you don't need an ML machine learning PhD to build models. My eventual goal was, as a clinician, you can build model to without, knowing any coding kind of idea. So that's where Hopper was. At this RSNA, we finally launched our codeless user interface. So you can now train a model for a classification task without requiring any knowledge of Python or anything like that. We also launched our delivery mechanisms, so findings directly into reporting applications called Presto, where a vision language model or any kind of classification model findings can be integrated directly into PowerScribe 360, RAD AI, any of the reporting pipes that exist, right? So not building a reporting package, but solving both problems, getting models built to show in imaging solutions, and then getting those results into clinical workflows. So that's where Hopper is. The longest training any of our customers have done today has been 13 hours.
That's it.
And our average from ideation to deployment has been 6 weeks for
That's
models
amazing.
trained on Hopper.
So just to clarify, people, that from a vision pipeline development, what we need is what we call data operations, access to training data, which Hopper provides. Then you go into MLOps, which is basically from data to basically running A, B, C, which is A/B testing, initial assessments, etc. And then finally deployment. Deployment is again a big problem for other companies, not Save Life AI. We deploy our models ourselves. But what I'm saying is that those are the three problems. And then basically what Hopper is essentially, if you are an AI application company, it solves these three problems for you to bring it. I mean, Save Life AI is, by the way, launching our software as medical device, which is a fully operational system in which once you do Hopper, and we haven't talked about it, Dr. Siddiqui, I know we're going to talk about it, in which we will able to get you FDA approval. Very fast, 90-day guarantee, etc. All of that, again, if you use Hopper, because I know that the training data, the deployment is going to be, SOC 2 certified, it's going to have QMS built in and all of these things, because I
Exactly.
cannot do an FDA until you give me something that is cyber secured, fully deployable, 24/7, all of that. So Hopper solves a lot of technology problems. Now, why? I'm just going to be honest. Why am I not using it? Because I do have a lot of data myself, and I'm training it because it's just easier for me. But I would use Hopper if I were to rebuild the company. And the reason that I didn't use Hopper, because I started the company before Hopper was like officially launched and everything, and I
Yeah.
built my whole stack, developers, AI engineers, etc. If I were to build a company right now, I would not do all of these. Number one, data operations. Number two, ML operations. And number three, deployment operations. All of it is done by Hopper. And by the way, at a very competitive price. If you go to their website, very good large companies, including Viz AI, is using their services. So again, I'm extremely grateful. I'm gonna let Ed or Harvey, whatever, start with the first question. and then we'll go from there.
Go ahead, Ed.
No, it's super fascinating, and I love all these accelerators because it is too hard. The barrier sometimes can be just getting started, and then people give up, and we lose out on all this potential for innovation. I'm curious because I think other people might have a similar question. So nothing on the tech at this time, but sort of the motivation. So when you ran into obstacles, which I'm sure you did as a pioneer, Dr. Siddiqui, um, how did you overcome those obstacles? Like what was sort of like internal impetus to like keep pushing through?
That's a deep question, and we'll be here. So I'll tell you, my internal motivation or my inner why is like I like to solve problems that people I love have and create a social impact at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So I think we did this in the last podcast, Junaid. So I was showing him a text message from one of my former fellows, who's a professor at Penn, and his text started. It was June 2024, I think. Text started like today. Uh, my 8-hour shift kicked my ass. I read 145 cardiac CT scans in one shift.
Mm.
That means you're looking at 5.5 images per second. Because, and that is insane. The max I've ever read was 80 in a shift, and I had to sleep for 2 days to recover from it. Like he read almost double that amount. And I was like, how do you make sure you didn't miss anything? He's like, I have no idea. Type of thing. My wife's also a radiologist, and I see her coming home and completely exhausted, burnt out, or has to finish work after dinner because things are getting done. The turning point for me was when both my kids were, I think this is 2017, 2018. So we have a boys chat between the two boys and me, and we heard the garage door open. So younger one was sitting in the kitchen, the elder one in his room. I was in my basement office, and the elder one texts, how is mama's mood? Should I come down to greet her or stay in my room? And the younger one goes, stay in your room. Right? And that should not be happening. Like radiology or clinical practice should not be impacting your kids like that. And that is what I'm trying to solve. So I have daily reminder at home that how bad this has gotten, how worse it is becoming. I'll give you some stats, what is happening. Yeah. Carle Health, big health system in Illinois, cannot retain radiologists more than 6 months. Their average tenure is 6 months. Central Illinois Radiology Associates has a backlog on cases for 10 days. Advocate Health System in Wisconsin, regular chest X-ray turnaround time is 6 days. Right? Can you imagine detecting pneumonia and things like that 6 days after imaging is done? This is insane. What is happening? If you go to the ACR's career website right now, there are 2,500 radiology jobs open. We only train 1,000 rads every year, and CMS just reduced that number too based on the cuts that just came in. And we've also got another 2.5% reimbursement cut on all non-time based imaging procedures. So this is not sustainable, right? We don't have the human workforce to do this. At the end, patient is getting impacted, right? Yeah, you can talk about whatever it is. At the end, who suffers? The patient who suffers, right? And delaying diagnosis on pneumonia or things like that. These are acute conditions, and the more you delay, the more complications you have, the more patient suffers. So that's the motivation, inner motivation. And I always feel like I don't have to solve everything. My philosophy is hire people who can teach you, and not tell them what to do. So if you look my entire team, I'm very blessed that half my team has worked for me before, either at Microsoft or at Higi or at Hyperfine. And, I call and they would like jump ship. Like people left Google to come, people left Microsoft to come. Like, these are high paying senior people who are leaving cushy jobs and comfortable life to bet on a startup that may not even work out, right? You know how it is. So, but that's kind of where we are. Like, I'll call out some of the folks, right? My co-founder Robert was my employee number one at Higi. I've worked with him since 2011. My main AI architect started as a intern at Microsoft. Ended up being in my Azure team, ended up joining me at Higgy to do a backend architecture. Ended up going to AWS, was on the S3 team, built AWS. Then went to UiPath, did the computer vision, AI automation, RPA type of stuff. Then went to Symbanova, built SDKs for compute chips for machine learning, right? And I called him, and he's like, literally the next day, it's like, I'm in. And so those are the kind of people you need to really, when you're trying to solve problems that nobody solved, and how do you do this stuff the right way?
Yeah, I love that. And a couple other questions is, so part of a good portion of our audience are clinicians, and they're listening and they're seeing all the different things, that Junaid went through, everyone sees it every day, all the advances being made. So the first question is for clinicians, but then I have another one for you on the administrative side that's similar.
Sure.
So if you're a clinician listening and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. What he's talking about, what Dr. Siddiqui was talking about, that's me. I come home all ruffled up. I'm stressed. What should they do? So these are practicing physicians, not entrepreneurial physicians like that are represented right here. What would you say might be the first step that they might think about doing, action taken?
I think action taken, like literally what we just did, right? What is happening in the industry? The world has changed. Clinicians using AI tools will thrive. Clinicians resisting it will not, right? I always, when I talk to folks, it's like calculator. You're not going to sit and do calculations with pen and pencil anymore, right? Yeah, you can, but that doesn't mean that's going to be time efficient for you. Now, how do you do this in a more efficient way? And that's what it needs to happen. And again, without educating yourself about what are the limitations, how to do this stuff, what is going on, listening to podcasts like we are doing and others, it is really hard, right? It's like, you almost like you're going back to med school and understanding like, okay, now here's a new surgical tool and how do I learn this? I mean, we do this all day long. New techniques come out, you go do your CMEs and learn about that stuff. This is, to my mind, same practice, like how do we actually do this stuff? See how open evidence has changed a lot of oncology practice. The one little tool that came out and has completely changed how we think about care delivery for complex cases, and it's like massive intelligence. All of us have our own massive intelligence in our pocket now.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how to think about it, right? This is democratizing intelligence, that now you have your own PhDs in your pocket that you can use. The question becomes like, who do you trust? How do you really be able to use those things, right?
Yeah.
So understanding that aspect of it, that ChatGPT may not give you the right correct answer because it's could have seen some junk data from the internet, whereas medical specific tools that are guaranteeing data provenance, guaranteeing lack of hallucinations and all that aspect of it will do it. I mean, as you know, right, OpenAI announced they're spending $20 billion to ramping up the next version of ChatGPT with healthcare. They're buying healthcare data like crazy right now. So that will get better too.
That's sage advice. And of course, from my perspective, go talk to your CMIO, your CNIOs, your CIO, your CDOs, your CTOs, whatever C. But if you do that and run into a barrier, you got to keep pushing and doing whatever you need to bring this to practice. So the corollary is you're at the boardroom talking to a health system. So I sit on a couple of boards for health systems, but not everyone in that boardroom is clinician. Most are not clinician, and many are from finance, banking, lawyers, all great people. So I'm not saying anything negative, but there may be a little bit of a lack of understanding of AI and technology and things that you bring to bear. What would you say? So, because part of our audience is the C-suite. So what would you say to them about taking, because here, one last presupposition to frame the question a little bit more tight. And that is that many would say, yes, we're interested in AI, but then they put up all this governance structure and bureaucracy. And so you think bench to bedside was like a long process. The same here with AI governance. So what would your message be? Like, what would you sort of encourage them to do?
I think they have to That's also a very great question, right? The way I think about this, like to be honest, like what you just asked, I have actually the board folks ask me also, like, what do we do, right? I really had this discussion with the health system, who were thinking about how do we do AI governance aspect of it. Average time a commercial consumer model stays state of the art is nowadays 7 days. Was 53 days in the summer, but with Opus 4.5 coming out and Gemini and 7 days later, 3 comes out and, OpenAI's 5.2 comes out. It's crazy how fast things are moving. So by the time you approve a tool, and if you look at like, I mean, even I look at medical imaging related stuff, right? There were 52 medical imaging foundation models that came out in 2025. By the time you will approve one through the government process, it'll already be obsolete. One of the things to think about is that the application built on a model today is the worst version of that application, because the next model coming out in a month from now will outperform that model, right? So you have to kind of have that mindset now, that what you said, right? AI is eating software or AI is eating SaaS. That's what we mean, right? They're no longer release timelines. Like the UI you are seeing today is the worst version of it, because the next version of this model comes out will do a better job at that aspect of it. The same thing's happening in healthcare, right? Same thing's happening with we are seeing our model performance is going through the roof every month, and not just data aspect of it, but the techniques that are coming out to improving model performance and reinforcement learning that is happening is really making a difference in that aspect of it. So, so it becomes very challenging to think about this. So, in my philosophy has always become make sure you have a very good validation and continuous monitoring practices in place. It's not upfront governance, it's but monitoring as it's going on. So you understanding any aspects of drift that is happening, all that. So if you build your validation verification stuff, then you don't care what is being used upfront as long as you are monitoring how things are happening. So you have to more think about monitoring aspect of it. If you look at Stanford's CHAI initiative, that's what they're suggesting. Also, ACR's ARCH initiative is also advocating that aspect of it, that continuous monitoring validation is way more important than upfront governance. So much so that they're even pushing FDA to reduce the barrier for pre-market approval and just focus more on the real-world
Correct.
evidence that is coming out of that stuff. So that discussion is also happening at the regulatory level side of things too, to change that factor, because it's going to be hard to approve models. By the time you get that approval, then it's already obsolete in this
We're
day
going
and
to have
age.
a lot of my questions on FDA approval process, including
Sure.
what we call foundation models versus non-foundation models, etc. And but before I go, Harvey, updates from Vegas and CES. Any questions for Dr. Siddiqui?
Yeah, updates. I was told I'm going to be seeing a lot of robots today, and later today, in about 2 hours ish, I'm meeting with Meta for Ray-Ban glasses and how they're applying in healthcare. So I'm actually looking forward to that meeting. And then as far as questions, it's a little premature, but I'll just jump in. You did a great job explaining where we were, where we are. And so that obviously the next question is, where are we going? Where do you see 5 years from now? I know it's, predictability, who knows, but I would love to see from your eyes, based on what you're doing, based on what's coming and what you can share, where do you think we'll be in medicine, at least in your area?
So let me give you some to think about. When the fastest car that we have today, what, 1,000 horsepower or something like that. So from Model T, which was 1 horsepower car, Ford Model T that came out in 1900s, to now we've used 1,000-fold increase in horsepower, right? Now, if you look at the architecture performance improvements in 2025 and the new chips NVIDIA is putting together, right, the Blackwell and going forward, that we had a 40 times improvement in algorithm performance, and not 40%, 40 times, and 40 times improvement in GPU compute performance. That's 1,600 times improvement in 1 year. So can you imagine, we're sitting in 1900, Model T just come out, and you're asking me to predict what 1,000 times better car going to look like. I would have no idea. Airplane hasn't been invented yet, right? So I'm thinking we're thinking like that right now. We're looking at the Model T that is here, but the chips and compute is going to be 600 times. So models coming out next year or in late 2026 would be way better performant than what we have today. And how do you imagine that is really hard for a human. So that's how I see it. That's why this whole idea of how do you monitor, continuously validate is way more important than worrying about, what is good today and not. Like a lot of the things that I can't talk about that are happening are just insane. What I'm seeing is just insane amount of performance on models.
Just to
Uh,
review what Dr. Siddiqui said, number one, to replace a radiologist, it costs $1 million to the hospital system. So you can buy so much AI for that. Number two, that's the iteration. I was a neurointensivist. I need to hire someone. It took me $1.2 million and 9 months to find a neurointensivist. It's actually now harder to find a radiologist, FYI. Number two, um, B100, which is the NVIDIA's latest chip, has not hit the market. It is now the data centers are being built, which is 4 times better in terms of training and 10 times better in inference. And then they have the bandwidth capacity, the memory capacity that they can go up to trillion parameters. So we have not even scratched the
Seen a model
surface
train on those GPUs. Yeah, yeah.
GPUs yet. So the minute that models come out, which by the way, 1,000 of them have been ordered by XAI, and they just raised $20 billion for it. It is going insane. And by the way, I missed one update. Google and Starlink are working to put data centers in space. By the way, Harvey, I have to send you that article. So now what you're looking at is insane amount of uh, progress that we're going to see in the next 3 years, and it's very hard to predict. But still, human behavior doesn't change, right? Dr. Siddiqui, the problem is that okay, I have the fantastic like RAD report, which actually is RAD AI competition, works insanely good, but I've seen that human behavior still is one of the factors. Even I'm a
Yeah.
clinician, right? I mean, it's so hard for me to change my behavior. If they Let me give you an example. Digital transformation. We went from paper charts to EHR to Epic when I was in St. Louis as a resident. I saw a lot of my senior physicians who were close to retirement, but not retirement age, just took early retirement not to go through that process. And now we're changing from what we call AI transformation. How do you address the human behavior and human adoption issue?
So there's a whole discipline for this called change management, right? So when you're implementing technology or new workflows, new things, you have to address change management. If you don't, then what exactly we're talking about is going to happen, right? I mean, and I'm sure you know this, right? Any IT implementation requires change management aspect of it, and all of that stuff needs to go through. So all of this stuff is the same exact thing, right? So if you have not thought through how to bring these folks on board, I was lucky to be part of that early digital revolution, converting film to filmless at Geisinger Health System, and went through the change management process and had amazing mentors who kind of guided me through that whole process to do this. I mean, since then, done a bunch of Epic implementations at Hopkins, at Maryland, PACS implementations, all this stuff, and didn't have anybody quit because we addressed it, all those aspects of it. Same thing applies here, right? How do you think about change management? How are you understanding the workflow? Where disruption is going to happen? And how do you address those aspects of and where the frustration comes from, right? So understanding those aspects really becomes important. I mean, that's why my philosophy that AI needs to be almost like if you look at our product Presto, you don't even know it's running, right? So and it's exactly to you already using same functionality of your existing reporting tools. It's just getting the model results right into your templates that already exist, right? So you're not changing, so you're reducing the barrier for change management on that aspect of it.
I have a few questions. So,
Yeah.
FDA and regulatory process. First of all, it is so different from Europe's regulatory process because to be honest with you, it was the first time ever that I saw that they are approving more faster as compared to FDA. But here's the thing. For the audience, the FDA is essentially, first of all, understanding it is not a continuous improvement process at the moment. People think that AI is always continuously improving. No, there's a process that we have to do is pre-change control management that we process and then send it to them. They will approve it, and then you have to stick to strict guidelines. But generally, most companies do not address that at the right. So it is a static model. Every time I change a model, I have to go through a 510K submission technically because model change is a huge thing. But anyways, number one is that FDA, you have the training data, then you have the what we call FDA performance data. You submit it through a 510K submission with all the requirements. 80% of the application has nothing to do with the model. It has everything to do with quality management system, post-market surveillance, cybersecurity, and deliverability and all of that. And then you have the model released. Now, models can be in three different ways. One is basically what we call CAD and CED. One is the diagnosis and detection. The other one is essentially segmentation. I use classification segmentation as a technical mind, but the idea is that is it going to diagnose and detect, basically give you hey, the pneumonia, no pneumonia, or is it going to give you a square or something on the chest and say, okay, here's the pneumonia, two different pathways, you need different, process for validating this and everything. Now we are moving into multi-diagnostic detection. I think Viz AI is working on one, or no, I don't know. A16 is definitely, they did abdomen pelvises with 8 diagnoses, and then they're moving forward. Now, Dr. Siddiqui, you probably do sit with, I don't know, way bigger people than I do. What do you think that the regulation of FDA will look like 3 years from now, given all of the advancement? Because it took us 5 years to get to multi-diagnostic detection. This is the first time it happened like late last year. But what is your prediction in terms of regulation and how important it is? Because I'm just going to be honest, Hopper is being deployed with multiple IRBs and everything. I know you're getting into a regulatory approval and it doesn't need for you because you're all back end. But the question is, for companies like us, what do we see in the future for regulation? Because it is not a product until it is regulatory approved. It is just a thought and a model. The difference between a model and a product is regulatory approval. So thoughts on that?
So yeah, a couple of things. So first of all, FDA clearance depends on the indication of use, as you mentioned, right? That's all that is, right? So indication of use is governed by the application that the model is being used in. So they don't approve models; they approve applications being used for clinical care, any sorts, right? Be it segmentation, as you said. So it's all about the indication of use, and various different guidelines and regulatory process have been defined based on how those approval happen. The way it happens is if it's a completely brand new indication or brand new use case, it usually goes through a de novo process. And de novo process then leads to a creation of regulation on how they will be assessed going forward. And then once one product has gone through a PMA or a de novo application, then all the others can use a predicate equivalence and submit for 510K clearance. So basically claiming that we are same as somebody else's thing that is already approved. So just to clarify what that is, right? And then it's the application that the end user is using is what the indication of use is and how it's getting displaying that results of the model becomes the one that is regulated today. If you talk to any of the FDA senior leadership, they will agree with you 100% that this model was initially designed on top of a drug approval model in the early days of CAD-E, which was very deterministic. Weren't machine learning models. Breast CAD is how all things started. And what has happened is because of the risk and cost and all the stuff, a lot of people have built applications using those old frameworks to get it through the FDA, right? So now the problem is for this to change, it requires Congress, legislation changes. And I don't know, with all the pressures to shut down our FDA, this is the right time anybody's going to go through and try to change the regulations. So
Harvey, what do you think? I mean, do you think that Trump is going to sign an executive order and get rid of some regulatory hurdles? That's possible, dude. I'm just messing. We're, by the way, Dr. Siddiqui, we talk, very open.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people need to learn from us, and so, Ed, what do you think? I mean, I really think the administration's push on AI might end up rather than an act of Congress than a executive order.
This was active discussion at RSNA, right? A
Okay.
lot of folks with the FD and everybody was talking about this stuff, and they're all understanding, that this needs to change. And there are lobbying activities happening through large radiology groups as well as some of the societies to any AI used under physician supervision should not require PMA anymore and move towards this continuous monitoring side of things, right? That's why, so American College of Radiology, a few others are pushing in that direction. So question is when that happens and when kind of announcement comes in, we don't know yet. We're hearing that it's coming out soon, that any AI used under physician supervision will no longer require a pre-market approval.
That would be amazing. Because I have 500 models that I can push today.
I mean, what is happening? What's the reality right now, right? Because of so much, frustration in radiology right now, I have small groups building their own models and deploying them. I mean, they're using open source stuff and just doing it, right? I mean, there's a practice here in Chicago, 50 radiologists. They've been using CheckStation for 6 months and doing draft reporting themselves. And I asked him, like, how? Like, that thing is not that good. That was built like 2 years ago, 2020, I forget, 22, 23. He's like, you know what? Yeah, it's good 60% of the time.
Med Insights or Google.
No. They're using CheckStation from Stanford, open source.
Oh my God. That is...
Right? So, and they're saying like it doesn't work 40% of the time, but it's like, hey, half the cases are done. So my workload is done by half. Like, I haven't seen anything that great productivity from any other tool. So what is doesn't work? They all know why it doesn't work, right? So, so that's the thing, right? When you educate and understand that aspect of it, and so this is happening, and they're not the only practice, right? There's so many groups out there that are doing this on their own now. Everybody's, like with all the computer science students having hard time finding jobs, they're getting hired by radiology groups to go do this.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No, I
just want to, before you go, right? So at RSNA 2024, if I said, draft reporting, it's like, oh, that's sacred. That's my output. That's my, like, you can't touch it. To 6 months ago, the amount of calls I've gotten, can you do draft reporting? It's been insane, right? The whole market has changed the last 6 months. And 2025-6 is going to be the year of draft reporting for radiology.
Yeah, my commentary was just what we all know, especially those of us, all of us who've been around for a while. People will find ways to optimize their workflow. And you can do it through a structured way, which has a lot of good benefits of doing it. Very ideal, make sure everything's safe, all that kind of stuff. But if that takes too long, which is historically the problem, which is why I asked the question about the boardroom, because we put up all these committees on slowing things down to the point of detriment. And then it sort of forces people to do kind of their own maverick things. And which again helps push innovation. So I'm not against it at all. I helped Mavericks as a CIO on the side. I helped them because I knew it was the only way we were going to do the right thing for our patients. So I think, the same sort of things happening, but at a much faster pace. And so that's why we should all be on board, right? That's why I always talk to my colleagues, my peers on the sort of hospital administration side and boards. Like, let's just start innovating, start experimenting. Otherwise, if you wait, you're just going to lose more clinicians. You're going to not have the same quality of care, all the things that we know.
Cool.
Harvey, here's the thing. You ran like multiple EDs and then you had an amazing successful exit. If you were in your same hat and then you're going through the process, and by the way, multiple of them are using, as he suggested, which honestly I think is not the right way, but at least people are just saying, oh, issue an IRB from somewhere, which costs $3,000, and then they're using it under research protocols. So that is an annoying...
Yeah, that's happening too. You're right.
That's another workaround, which, by the way, I just decided that I'm going to release everything on Save Life AI. and then make it available and people can join in through an IRB. So that's coming in 4 months. You're going to see 16 done because that's what we have already validated. We were just waiting for FDA. But now we're going to have more and more coming super fast just under IRBs. And now the question is, because I have to compete in the stupid market, which is a market problem, right? Because if I was going to ethical, which now I feel like, should I? So what is your recommendation, Dr. Siddiqui? And before you go, Harvey, if you were the CEO of 20 different EDs and et cetera, would you do an IRB approved AI and move on?
Yeah, for sure. In the emergency room and in every part of medicine, but emergency room, literally minutes counts, days counts. I cannot imagine getting a report of pneumonia of one of my missed doctors 5 days later. That person would be dead or septic or something just horrible.
Exactly.
And and so with that statement, I literally was at CS and speaking to someone about this, and they literally were talking about misdiagnosis and the repercussion that happened to their family member. So, it's the lesser evil, right? What do? I have all these doctors, and in the freestanding world, it's sort of worse because at least in the main hospital, you have a big mega hospital system, and there's all these radiologists, and if push comes to shove, I could walk over to the radiology department and be like, dude, hook me up, read this x-ray. I'm worried about X. When you're in the freestanding, as far as I know, this could be like on the other side of the planet. It could be somewhere else. I don't know who's reading this. I don't have that relationship. And so I do have to make a cold read. And so anyway, that's my answer to that.
Yep.
Ed, as a board member, and you're going to introduce Save Life AI to multiple boards. What I'm saying is that what do you think is going to happen? Let's say through this IRB shortcut, and what are your thoughts? Being in the leadership position as a board member, would you say, okay, allow it? Let's say you're going to allow it. We're going to assume that. But for how long? What would be the parameters around it you would set up in a hospital system you're a board member of? What would you operationalize it?
Well, I definitely be a proponent, and definitely let the gates open a little bit and measure results. How things going, and then as we get more experience, continue to let it flow. So I'm as you can tell, and from previous conversations, I'm pretty I'm pretty much, hey, let's experiment, let's go out there, let's get rid of bureaucracy, obstacles, and then if we need to, we can shorten the leash. But I believe in letting out the leash pretty fast.
Dr. Siddiqui, thoughts on, again, the reason that I see, there are two bottlenecks. One was behavior. You talked about it. Use
Yep.
it, lose it, or lose your job, for God's sakes. We just know because the replacement is coming. Number two issue is, of course, the regulatory pathway.
Right.
And then of course, this, I don't know.
Yep.
So final thoughts on regulation, and then I have one last question before we leave.
And I have something else I want
Sure,
to
sure.
thought provocative thing, right? So I think the regularity aspect of it, because of what is happening, there are large practices right now who can't hire radiologists, have moved to getting states, their local states, to allow them to train NPPs, non-physician providers, to do certain reads, right? So there's a whole, that effort is happening, right? And guess what? Those people absolutely need AI to make sure they don't miss anything, right? So I think whatever direction happens, right, regulatory process becomes easier, doesn't easier, whatever happens, or all things move towards a lot of NPPs reading stuff. AI is not going anywhere, right? It is the solution to make either of the problems better. And I do. I mean, having talking to the senior folks at FDA, they all agree, right? They just trying to figure out how do we get legislation passed so that they can actually make these changes. That's what the whole activity is happening here.
I concur. We just had an FDA QMS audit. They came in and said it. We're going to move to these standards, ISOs, so that everything is more standardized, easier, so that
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
And then, of
That's
course, what you said, the vision is to actually not only get vision, but I'm just not going to talk about the LLM part because I have an ISAMD product through an LLM product, which is going to be also hopefully soon with this
Yeah.
new approval as well. So keep
The
going,
thing I
please.
wanted to talk about is the November 18th was a seismic shift in software development that happened that a lot of people don't talk about. So November 18th was when Gemini 3 came out. And with that, anti-gravity was released. And then November 24th, Opus 4.5 comes out from Anthropic, right? And the day after Thanksgiving, Chat GPT 5.2 comes out. All these
Here,
three models have
here's
now
my
become
anti-gravity setup right now that I'm using, and then
yeah,
researching how I'm going to integrate before. As a physician, because of the
yeah,
anti-gravity and Gemini, I'm able to
yeah.
literally code. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so the world has changed. So like the way even we operate now as a company has completely changed. And so we are. I use both anti-gravity and Cloud Code for this, and then now that Cloud Code runs on Cloud Desktop, it is you have UI. You don't have to worry about using terminal windows and things like that. You can just do what you want to do. So I think there's been a whole seismic change in how we think about it. We've completely changed how we hire people, how we think about it, and we even created something called a night shift now. A night shift, basically at 4:30 p.m., my whole team is now required to assign work for night shift. Either whatever your favorite tool is, Cloud Code or whatever it is, to go do work for you while you're sleeping.
Yep,
So
overnight
it's
agents are being spilled with skills. By the way, agent
exactly.
skills, remember that we talked about, Harvey, that we were not impressed? You have no idea how impressive it is when you're doing coding tasks. I make an agent for only Next.js, React.js, etc. I make another agent for Python. I make another agent for this. And then I give them a task, and then everything is done. And then there's a code review open for me with available. There's actually an auto cloud as well. So I agree with you that
If you
that's
haven't
created a
used Cloud
seismic shift.
Code or Anti-Gravity after Thanksgiving, you need to because it has completely changed how it
The
works
Opus
now.
4.5, I continuously use that. The reason that I don't use Cloud Code is I'm not that comfortable with terminal just yet. I'm using it
It's
within Cursor.
no, it's no terminal anymore because you can use Cloud Desktop now.
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, so for everyone, because this is such an important and seismic, I just want to give you an idea of how the Cloud Code generation works on a desktop. Give me 1 second. I just remove these screens because I don't want to show what I'm working on. So there's a code option over here. You
Yeah,
can actually
there's
select a
a
local folder, and then you can actually go ahead and create a Cloud MD file and everything, and then choose your environments, etc., and sessions and everything. What I still do is actually make these agents and then use it into my Cursor IDE. But what I'm saying is that, again, not something that I mean, I'm not a programmer. I mean, my whole point is to make my team efficient. And you're absolutely right. Nothing. I'm actually firing people who doesn't use AI clearly, like fast. So how does it connect to radiology, FDA, and everything? This seismic shift.
I think the what as I said earlier, right? The version of the UI that you're seeing today is the worst version of the UI. So this whole idea of a static UI anymore is probably not going to be the future of UI is on demand based on what you're trying to do right now. And there are a lot of things happening in software industry in which basically this concept of static UI won't exist anymore. You're basically saying like, this is what I'm doing today, and the UI generated on the fly based on the latest model that is there right now, and will be the best version of it today. And tomorrow, a newer version of the model comes out, will do a better job at creating that aspect of it, right? So it's very fascinating what is happening. Again, literally, November 24th was not that far away, and
And by the way, if you look at the
hasn't even been 2 months yet, right?
if you change, by the way, we're going to be talking to Z.AI, a Singapore company, Harvey. We need to figure that out as well. 4.6, GLM 4.6 to GLM 4.7. By the way, I have a huge issue with vendor lock-in. So I don't like to use Gemini, Claude, and all of that. I like open source. Once I have the money, I'm going to put my A100s and then reuse it. But the question is that while I'm using these within the last 3 months, even Andre Karpathy, which is considered like the godfather of AI and Tesla, he said, it's just insane hard for me to catch up my habits because it's so fast changing that Gemini comes with something and then Claude comes with something, and they both actually, oh my God. And then all of them are using AI to develop their AI. So it is going crazy. My prediction is that the way that I have structured now my company within the last 4 weeks, 4 months, last month, is that the speed at which I was able to produce is much faster, both models itself, because when you have the data, you have the pipeline, the AI is checking everything, it's going to be insane. FDA approval process, building an E-Star application used to take 3 months. We're doing it in 3 weeks. That's number two. And number three is that what I'm seeing is that in your situation, you're saying user experience is going to change, but and statics, and you're saying that user experience is going to be on the fly. I just want to let Ed and Harvey understand this. This is something what we call that if I say, can you tell me there is a nodule on the chest X-ray, then it's going to basically pull up the UI of the chest X-ray, also pull up that these patient had these CT abdomens or CT chest even 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago, and just show exactly what I need to know right now in a user experience that is custom built on my prompt on that day. So that would be different for CT pelvis, that would be different for CT angiogram, it will be different for MRI. And there's a context of the patient pulling in EHR data or multi-omics data if you're connected to it. This is called user experience on the fly. And then we actually did experiment with it. As a matter of fact, now we are prototyping so fast user experience. We're still using static UI, but we are actually able to prototype our UI 16 times faster, because we don't have to like go through the designer, then development and everything. And then, so you're absolutely right that both the back end model development and then the front end, and of course we are excelling in what we call the regulatory pathway to ensure of that. Anyways, again, Dr. Siddiqui, anything do you want to add? I would love to. And then
No,
how
I think
people
we
can
covered a
reach
lot.
you, and how people can reach Hopper.
Hopper.ai, reach out through there. My email is khan@hopper.ai if you want to reach out to me. And I also respond on LinkedIn.
He does. And by the way, I just want to tell one thing about it, that he gave me a lesson in humility and humbleness. I mean, it's important because you become a director of neuro ICU, but you're not a radiologist or a founder. And he just taught me a lot. So I'm extremely grateful
You're
for
most
all the
welcome.
advice over the years that Dr. Siddiqui has given me for free. I mean, I've tried multiple times for him to join as an advisor to Save Life AI, but he did not because of conflicts of interest. But at the end of the day, I am so very grateful that he has advised me for free. Harvey and Ed, anything to add before we close?
No,
Listen,
No,
my
I
goal,
don't have
Okay.
my
anything.
goal in my
Yeah.
life, sorry, Harvard, my goal in life is to impact 1 billion people before I die. So I give advice to anybody who asks for, because I've already had multiple exits, so I don't need, that's not what I'm focused on, right? My focus really is how can I create a bigger impact. So more than happy to help.
love it.
Awesome. Well, we really, really appreciate that a lot. So thank you.
Yeah.
Harvey, take some videos. We're gonna post it, and then Ed. And when are you coming back? We're gonna have some dinner, etc. Ed, anything from you that we need to
No,
know?
so thankful. Love. I learned so much listening and engaging. So thank you, Dr. Siddiqui, for sharing so openly and being so humble.
Thank you. No, thanks,
Thank you,
Harvey.
everyone.
Thanks,
See
Ed.
you next week,
Thanks,
Wednesday,
Janine.
8 a.m. on Dallas. Have a nice day.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Dr. Siddiqui, can you leave on, make sure the uploading is complete? I'm assuming you have internet, fast internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've used this before. It's
Okay.
99% done. So I'll leave it till it's completely done.
Thank you so much again, guys. Have a nice day. I'll call
Take care.
you over the weekend,
Sure.
text you, and then we'll chat more. Thanks. Bye.
Absolutely.